Sarah introduced me. I lead our resilience program at IBM, and I also lead our learning design and development team, which is a global team. And we design learning for large programs, large portfolios like leadership development and sales learning, agile learning, diversity and inclusion. So I'm part of an amazing organization and was given the really fortunate, sort of assignment to take a fresh look at our resilience program. So that's what I'll walk you through today. Here was the business problem when we took this over, and it was about a year ago. There was a lot of different content that was, there was sort of fragmentation of content and programs that was being delivered across the organization. And when we say scale and IBM and the organization, I'll give you a sense of what that means. It's 360,000 employees globally, over 182 countries. So scale is scale at IBM. So we really have to, fragmentation is something we sort of grapple with a lot of different programs, but there was a really vibrant, amazing mindfulness community that was developing a lot of materials. We had local site folks doing, delivering content around different sort of topics related to resilience. And there wasn't sort of a central point of view, like a here's what IBM thinks about resilience, and this is what we mean when we talk about it. So there's a need for some sort of coming together and audit in a way of all that was being delivered across the globe. At the same time, there was a huge demand for this content. Even prior to 2 weeks ago or a month ago, our world was volatile and ambiguous enough and uncertain. So there was there was a high demand at that time. There's a higher demand now, but we all have seen all of the staggering statistics around burnout and anxiety. So more and more IBMers had an appetite for support in these topic areas. Then at the same time too, there was an increased focus across the organization around mental health and how we were supporting the mental health of IBMers, both through sort of preventative measures like resilience, and then further downstream, medical support through EAPs and things like that. So this was kind of the perfect storm. And the HR organization said, yes, we need to put our heads together and sort of get some focus and some momentum around a new set of resilience offerings. The opportunity in front of us was to really understand what IBMers wanted and what they needed and what was getting in the way of them thriving and being healthy and being productive and feeling connected and feeling well. So first, the first opportunity was to really understand IBMers and understand where they were going to currently for some of this content, whether it was inside IBM or outside IBM. We did have existing resilience curriculum. It just needed a fresh look. So based on the research and based on the data we collected, we needed to take a look at our current curriculum and if that needed adapting. We also needed to come together and think through how are we gonna, what is success gonna look like at the end of this? Once we launch new offerings and they're in the ecosystem, how will we know if IBMers are more resilient? How do we measure that? So that's an important part of our offering discipline. So we needed to look at that as well. And ultimately, the opportunity in front of us was to create a data-driven, behavior science-based, and human-centered solution to help our employees thrive in times of change and to meet the call for transformation, which we know is happening in the business world and in fact the extended world at a rapid pace. So we engaged in research. We did secondary research, kind of combing through past engagement surveys, which is sort of engagement like broad pulse surveys, to find out, when the instances of things like stress and burnout showed up in comments. We dove into those comments to look at what was driving it and, kind of uncover some of the sentiment around burnout and stress and work-life balance. And we also looked at external surveys, what other companies were doing. So we did a whole body of secondary research, and then we did internal primary research with surveys and with interviews to understand things I've mentioned. What do IBMers want? where are they getting it currently, what's getting in the way of them thriving in the workplace and outside of the workplace, what kind of delivery methods do they want. It was such a rich, and meaningful exercise, that research sprint, which took maybe about 2 months. We spent about 2 months on it. And tons of insights surfaced, which I don't have the time to get into today, but this is what we learned about what they want, what they want to know about, what they need help with, what they want to learn. Staying calm under work-related pressure. No surprise, none of these are surprises, I'm sure, to everybody. Don't we all want to learn and master these? Managing work overload, identifying negative thought patterns, emotion control and emotional intelligence, and just an improved sense of connection and fulfillment to work. This was primarily, the question was asked in more of a work setting, but we can extrapolate to imagine that there's a kind of a hunger for an improved sense of connection in our lives broadly. So this is what IBMers wanted. We took that, we became, my learning team, the very, very lean team that worked on this, which I'll share in a few slides, got really, really deep into the research. We read books, we referenced academic articles, we searched out and found experts, not who advised us personally, but whose research really guided us. And we landed on a single definition, which again was no surprise. This won't feel unfamiliar to those of us who are in the resilience world and who think about it a lot. But we didn't have a single definition at IBM, so we really need to land on that. So it's by us defined as the ability to handle challenges, bounce back smarter and stronger, and thrive in the face of stressors and changing demands and opportunities. We wanted to talk, as much as we wanted to talk about helping individuals deal with adversity, some of the the negative stressors, we'd say, we also wanted to provide resources to help them rise to meet exciting opportunities, big promotions, or being at the helm of huge projects, or winning a gigantic client engagement. Those offer us opportunities to build resilience or practice our resilience as well. So this was the definition. If I could do a little of self-reflection, as this is now in the market, it's an internal market, but in our market, I think the piece that I'd love to wedge in here somewhere is around personal growth. It's about a personal growth experience, rather than, this could be interpreted, and the word resilience, in fact, is interpreted in lots of different places globally as like system resilience, or being really good at taking punches and bouncing back. But there is, at the root, at the core, it's around personal development and growth. So I'd love to modify this as we go and change it up a bit, but that's the definition that we landed on. And here's our framework. So here's the approach that we're going with, and I'll show you a slide that describes these categories a bit. But it's reflect, relate, renew, and realize. Reflect is about the inward journey. Realize is about strengthening relationship with others, social connection. Renew is about nourishing the mind and body and building practices and habits around nutrition and movement and recovery. And realize is the connection to a greater purpose. So that's the overall approach that we landed on, and that all of our offerings will be built around. Let me move on. Here is just sort of a mood board that I wanted to share with you all, so that it sort of captures this again is the work of our design group, and it captures the sort of the feel, the kind of feelings we want to evoke. Lots of water elements, people of different stripes and varieties, and these photographic images could be even more diverse. Our population encompasses every type of person, so that needs to be reflected in our imagery. And so we'll kind of iterate on this, but this gives you a sense of what the sort of program looks and feels like in our ecosystem. And here's just a bit of a deeper explanation of each of our categories. Reflect, looking inward and making your mind an ally, starts with introspection. The topics that we cover under this reflect category are things like mindfulness, positive orientation, managing emotions, self-compassion. So those kind of are the topics that sit in reflect. In relate, it's about, this is not a solo journey. This is not it can be a solo journey, but your resilience will be compromised in a way without this component of social connection, which we're all really taking for granted, I think, now that we're in various forms of isolation. But that social connection can still exist and will exist. But this connecting to others is hugely important. And the topics we cover under relate are social connection and the importance of that, gratitude and helping others, or altruism. Those are the topics we cover under relate. Renew is about this baseline of well-being and health. So we talk about recovery, movement, food. We also have rituals in this category. So rituals for starting your day and ending your day and celebrating victories and launching projects. We're excited about that one. So we've got rituals and also energy management in the Renew category. And then in Realize, we have purpose and work life. We haven't landed on work-life balance, work-life integration. We're sort of right now being neutral in that space and calling it work-life. So that's kind of a deeper dive into our approach.
That's fantastic, Sallyanne.
Shall I pause here?
Yeah, I think it feels like this would be, a wonderful place to pause, because we've already got a bunch of questions coming in from the floor. I think you've set the scene for us fantastically in terms of your frame on what can be a very heady, somewhat nebulous topic. And I love already the introduction that you've given us in terms of practices that you're building out and encouraging others to do. Can we talk about? Can we take some questions? Is that okay with you?
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
You've got the driver wheel. So
awesome.
Yes,
awesome. Okay.
I'll take your lead.
Thank you. I think I was curious about working with others in the organization. How did you get other execs the air cover you needed to care about this initiative? How do you plan to in terms of taking this forward?
Yeah, well, I'll speak to that, and then there's a slide I have about the internal IBM ecosystem. We had our vice president who heads leadership, learning, and inclusion, about an 800-person organization in HR. She is a huge advocate for and proponent of resilience. It's just been something she's believed in since day one. So there was tremendous support for her, but I should now is a good time to reveal that, it wasn't a big program that we were rolling out. This was done with a couple of learning designers and a graphic designer. We didn't have any program dollars or any big budget. This is an important HR initiative for sure, but the type and the scope and the volume of other HR initiatives at a company like IBM, this was a kind of a teeny tiny initiative, really. So we had the support we needed. We kind of ran under the radar screen and built all this. We were going to launch first few weeks of April with most of our stuff. All of our offerings right now are digital. But super interactive digital. We really needed to make it an active learning experience. But because of the coronavirus, we wanted to get, all of IBM pulling all of its workers, those that can be remote, to be remote. We needed to really fast track this. So we got it done, we sprinted to the finish. It was about 80% done. And then we got the last 20% done in a couple of days and launched it as part of the support around coronavirus resources. So now there's tremendous HR support for all, and executive support for all programs that can help IBMers and IBMers families during this time. So I hope that answers your question. A bit long-winded.
No, it's great. I love the very resilient and adaptive of approach you took for, to getting this thing out much more quickly than you'd planned to. I think we are unfortunately at time.
Oh no, my gosh, oh, darn it. I'm so
Don't worry.
sorry.
No, there's no sorries. This has been incredibly helpful, and very, very inspiring. Just, understanding the practices, and the lens that IBM is taking through this is so helpful. And we're incredibly grateful for your time today, Sallyanne.
Thank you, Sarah. Real apologies for not going quicker. Please hit me up on LinkedIn for anyone who wants to have a discussion separately about this. I'm happy to connect, and thank you for having me.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.